Okay guys, let's get started with Arduino. An Arduino is basically a microcontroller board. But first let us understand what is a microcontroller. A microcontroller is basically a mini computer, you can say. You can use it to power up various devices, run various things like a printer, scanner, or many machines, like you can even run a washing machine, microwave oven using a microcontroller. A typical microcontroller has three things: a processor, a memory device, a peripheral devices. What is a processor? A processor is a CPU. What the functions of CPU are: to fetch data which you are giving, like if you press a button you are giving some command. Okay, it will fetch that data, then decode it. That if you're pressing enter button, then what the enter button means. If you're pressing run button, then what run button means. Okay, it will decode it and then execute it. Like if you press enter, then in notepad it will decode it as go to the next line. Okay, and then it will give you the output. If suppose you press enter, then if you wanted a new application to open up, then a new application will open up. So these are the uses of a processor. Then talking about the memory device. Memory devices are just flash memories where data is stored. Then peripheral devices. Peripheral devices are the extra devices that you connect to a microcontroller. You can connect, as I told you, a printer. You can connect a mic. You can connect a keyboard. Anything. Okay. But now let us move to Arduino. This is a Arduino board. Typical Arduino UNO board. How it looks like. You can have a look. Arduino is an open source platform. Okay, why? What is the meaning of open source? That means you can copy its code from its website, or there are communities which will provide you various codes. You can copy it from there, run it on your machine. You can even, if you want, you can sell them. You can copy the whole board that you see and make your own boards and sell it. Now, what do Arduino boards do? What's the best thing about these boards? You can use it to take inputs. Okay, like you can connect button, then it will take the input if you press the button, and then you can use it to command output. Like if you program it in such a way that when you press a button LED should glow, then it will glow. Okay, now let's first know what are the pins. Use the pins that you see. What are these things? How to use them? The first thing is USB plug-in pin. What it does is you connect it to a laptop or a computer, okay, any desktop, and then you upload your written code to the Arduino Uno using this USB plug-in pin. You can even power up the Arduino Uno using this USB pin. The input is between 9 volts to 12 volts when you connect it to a laptop. Now suppose you don't want a laptop to carry everywhere. So what you can do is carry a small battery to power up the Arduino Uno. Where to connect that? This external power supply. Okay. This external power supply pin is used to power up the Arduino Uno. You can use a battery between 7 volt to 12 volt to power up this board. The next I'll talk about are the output pins. You have known the inputs, only these two are the inputs. Okay. Now let's talk about the outputs, from where you can get the outputs. The first you can get output is this 3.3 volt, 5 volt, and this Vin. Okay. So what it does is when you provide, suppose say 7 volts in this USB pin, or you can say this external power pin, you provide 7 volts. From this 3.3 volt pin you can get an output of 3.3 volts. Okay, like if you want a LED to run on 3.3 volt, you can connect it between this 3.3 volt pin and this ground pin. Now suppose you want to run something of which has a voltage consumption of 5 volts. So what you will do is connect the one terminal to 5 volt pin, other to ground. But say you want something to run more than 5 volts, more than 3.3 and more than 5. So what to do now? You can use this V in pin. This is voltage input pin. What it does is it takes all the input that you are giving and it gives it as output. For example, if you are connecting a 12 volt input here, or say 12 volt input here, and you want the output of 12 volts, so you will connect your device to this V in pin. Okay, now let us move to ground pins. Ground pins, as I told you, these are the negative terminal pins. Suppose you have a LED. LED has two terminals, a positive and negative. You will connect the positive one to this 3.3 volt or this 5 volt, and the second terminal will go to the ground pins. There are two ground pins here in Arduino UNO and a ground pin here. Okay. Now let us move to the analog pins. There are 6 analog output pins. Output and input actually in Arduino UNO. What they are used is they will give analog output, that is in terms of signals, high low in such format. Okay, what an example of analog output device will be a Bluetooth module or a PIR module sensor. Okay, you will learn about it in later courses. The next are the digital pins. These pins that you see from 0 till 13, these are the digital input output pins. What you can do is connect a LED to these pins. An LED is a digital device, okay, and you can get output. Now talking about these waveforms that you see on pin number 3, 5, 6, 9, 10 and 11. What are these? These are PWM pins. See, it's written here PWM. What it means that it is pulse width modulated pin. Now what does that mean? Suppose you have a motor running. Now suppose your motor is running at a speed of say 10 rpm. Okay, just an example, take 10 rpm, that is 10 rotations per minute. It rotates 10 times in a minute. Now you want to increase the speed to 20 rpm, that is you want to increase the speed that it rotates 20 times in 1 minute. So what you will do is connect it to this 10 and 11 or 5 and 6 or 3 and 5. That means to these PWM pins. So you can increase or decrease the speed of a motor using the PWM pins. The next I'm going to talk about is TX and RX pins. These are receiving and transmission pins, you can understand. What they do is they transmit data and they also receive data. Let us take an example of a Bluetooth module. Okay, a Bluetooth module is used to connect to Bluetooth devices or the devices which have Bluetooth in them. So what it will do, a Bluetooth module will have two pins, actually four, a V in pin, okay, a ground pin, to that those two pins will be used to power up the Bluetooth module. Then you will have two pins, one is TX and one is RX. The TX will transmit data from Bluetooth module to Arduino. The TX of Bluetooth module will be connected to receiving pin of Arduino UNO, and then the data will be received by the board and then it will transmit data. So where it will transmit from this TX pin, and where this transmission pin should go, this will go to the receiving pin of Bluetooth module. I hope you get it. Otherwise in later courses we have explained it further. Then the last is AREF pin. AREF or analog reference voltage pin. What it does is to provide reference voltage to this analog pins. What that means, suppose by default 5 volt of output is obtained from this analog pins. But suppose you have some device which requires say output of 9 volts or 10 volts. What you will do is you will configure this AREF pin, analog reference pin, to give output of 9 volts or 12 volts from this analog output pins. Okay, I think only the reset button and reset pin remains. What they are used is to reset the Arduino. Suppose you have uploaded a code and it's not working properly. You will you can reset the board again, okay, or flash out the code and then upload the code again. Then the other thing is in circuit serial programmer. This is used to program the Arduino. You will learn about it in later course. Then the last is this Atmega 328 microcontroller. I have already explained you what the microcontroller is. Okay, this is basically the heart of Arduino. Just like you have CPU as the heart of your desktop device or your laptop. In the same way, this Atmega is the heart of Arduino. Let us quickly revise what I told you. USB pins, they are used to upload the code or also provide the input. External power, provide input. 3.3 volt pin, 5 volt pin or the V-in pin. Okay, these are used to provide the output of 3.3 volts or 5 volts or the whole input as output from V-in pin. Then you have ground pins, two ground pins here, a ground pin here. These are the negative terminal pins, you can say. You have 6 analog pins, they are used to provide analog input voltage. Then you have digital pins from pin number 0 to 13. Okay, they provide output to digital devices. You have the Atmega microcontroller, this is the heart of Arduino. Then you have TX and RX pins, transmission pin and receiving pin. Then you have a reset button here, a reset pin here. Okay, these are used to reset the Arduino. I hope you understand everything. You can ask the doubts below. Thank you.